Hey everyone, it's Michael GoosebumpsFan. Today we're going to be talking about another thing like Goosebumps. Now, there is a book series about the first book when I came across it in Barnes & Noble one time. And it shows me more and more of something I've been saying for a while now. Scholastic, I think, is trying its best to be the children's horror publisher, right? Which is cool. I like the stuff. I'm a big Goosebumps fan, as you can tell from the title of the channel, to the video content I typically put on my channel, to what I said at the beginning of this video. Thing like Goosebumps. There is a book series called Shadow House, and it's, I don't know if I would say super popular, but it's popular amongst people who read a lot of middle grade books. And I read a lot of middle grade books with all my Goosebumps stuff, and I read a little bit of other stuff like Mary Downing Hahn. I haven't done any videos on this channel for her. I did a long time ago before I made this Michael Goosebumps Fan as a channel, but I'm not terribly impressed with her. I really love her book Took, which is really, really good. I really recommend that if you haven't read it before. It's very eerie, very, very unnerving, a Hansel and Gretel type thing. It's kind of like a fairy tale thing involving a witch. I recommend that if you haven't read it. And I really like that. I don't think it was published by Scholastic, though. But she's one of the only other writers that you see, like R.L. Stine, consistently, right? There's even some of my favorite writers, like Jonathan Mayberry, who wrote a book series called, like, The Nightsiders, I think is what it was. There was a 2-book series. Pretty lengthy, too, like 500 pages a book. And I know Mayberry can write. I read the first book and I loved it. I haven't done a video here on the channel for it. I'd like to reread it before I'd ever do that. He did the Rotten Ruin series, which is more of a young adult book series than it is a middle grade type thing. You can't find his books in the stores. You can't. They don't even order them. But I found this one. It's called Shadow House. It's the first book. By Dan Pawlowski, I think is how you say his name, or Pawlowski. I don't know how to say his name. This is called The Gathering. Really cool cover. I really like the concept and the ideas based around this book, and I'll get more into that in a moment. I think it's cool how when you open this, you have just kind of the face here, and then that, you know, this kind of covers up the face of the girl in there. I'm assuming this is Poppy, the main character, sort of kind of the main character of the book. Shadow House is one of these weird experimental books Scholastic publishes sometimes. When I was a kid, as much as I loved Goosebumps, one of the book series they caught me with one time, it was designed to look like a diary. It had like a slipcover made of plastic that you could put over it, but when you took that off, the book looked like a diary. It was called Skeleton Creek. And Skeleton Creek is not really out of print per se, but it's moved over to print on demand. So it's not really like a diary type looking book. It doesn't come in hardcover anymore unless you can find one online. But not on Amazon. If you go to Amazon, you're going to get one that's just like a regular paperback copy. It's kind of generic looking. Not to insult the book, I'm just saying. And Skeleton Creek did this thing once upon a time about when you finished a certain chapter, you'd get a password and you'd go online to a certain website about Skeleton Creek, and they had small horror short films about ghosts and stuff that were involved with the story. And then when you come back from watching that, like a 3-minute or 5-minute long short film, it's kind of like a Blair Witch Project type of thing. And there's like 5 of these books, by the way. You'd come back to the next chapter and the characters would be talking about what they saw. And when I read that book, I didn't watch the short films. I didn't even know that that's what I was supposed to do. I thought it was just like a joke. But no, it was a real thing you were supposed to do. And I remember really being disappointed with that book because of that. Because I didn't know what happened. Shadow House, they tried to do the same thing with. Almost. It didn't have short films, but it had like these short story type things that tied into the book. So for example, when you're going through the book, you'll find something like for example, here's a picture here. You'll see this, you'll see this like little emblem up here, and you go to the app that you can download for Shadow House on your phone, and it would come up with a pattern. Let's say if you're in book 1, you'd choose book 1, you'd open that up, it'd have like a bunch of little patterns everywhere, and you would try to trace out the same shape of what you just saw on the page, and it would kind of unlock the next thing, right? So you could try to do that, and you'd read that little short story, and it'd have all kinds of really cool stuff. This really creepy music that I've never heard in my life. I'm assuming they composed it themselves for it. Very cool stuff. Really, really atmospheric. However, as I read the short stories, I didn't read all of them. I read like half the book and followed those little short stories throughout about half the book, and I was not tremendously impressed with that. The book itself was good. I like the book. It's just that portion. I gave up on the app stuff. I'm not going to use it anymore. I've already deleted it from my phone. It's just worthless. It doesn't really feel like it's part of the story. It's trying to be there, kind of like in video games when you find like an article, like a document, and you read it or you listen to it or whatever. And it's trying to be that. and it's not as clever. It's not as interesting, and it's kind of stupid. It's the opposite of what Skeleton Creek was. Skeleton Creek, you had to rely on these short films, right? In this situation, you don't have to rely on them. It's just kind of nonsense that I don't care about, really. The first one was kind of cool, about cops in a house that was on fire. I would say Shadow House The Gathering is kind of sold on this idea of being kind of like Stephen King's The Shining for kids, for middle grade audiences. And that really had me intrigued. I don't really like the Stephen King book all that much. I like the first film, the Kubrick film, and I really love the TV miniseries. A lot of people don't love it, but I do. I think it's close to being really great, honestly. If you could kind of blend that with Kubrick's film, it could be perfect. So I had my interest. I was like, what is this going to be like? And the book was very different from what I thought it was going to be. And in a good and a bad way, right? It's about 215 pages long. It's pretty lengthy compared to a typical Goosebumps book that's about 120 pages or so. And you follow a lot of characters in this book. Basically, there's the main girl that's introduced first. Her name is Poppy. And Poppy has always had this problem as long as she can remember. And by the way, she's an orphan. When she looks in mirrors, she can see a girl standing behind her. And the girl doesn't exist in reality. Nobody knows why she does this. She's kind of kept it to herself. But at some points, she can wake up in the middle of the morning, or whatever, and she'll have gifts that the little girl has brought to her and put underneath her pillow. So Poppy has that weird ability. Then you're introduced to the next character, Marcus. And Marcus is really cool. I like him a lot as a character. He's probably my favorite. Either he or Poppy, I would say, is my favorite of all the characters in the book. Marcus has this ability where he hears music everywhere he goes. Like, just different things, different songs. And when he talks about that with his family, they think he's nuts. And maybe he is, but they talk about it like he's crazy. And then there's some other kids. There's two twins that are famous for being on a very famous sitcom TV show called Dad's So Clueless. They're twin brothers. They played the same character, kind of like, what are their names? Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, that played the little girl, the youngest daughter on Full House. What is her name? I cannot remember. It doesn't matter. They're kind of going for that. So I thought it was kind of a cool reference as a 90s kid. Then there's another girl who, her sister went missing in a Japanese forest one time because they're Japanese. And they never found the girl, and it kind of felt like her parents kind of blamed herself for this whole thing. But anyway, all these kids are all in different places in their life, and they all get these letters to go to different things. For example, Marcus, the musician who hears music all the time, he gets a letter saying that he's going to be sent to a kind of a musician school, like to study music in general and try to get popular or famous with that. The two twins that I talked about that were actors, they were actually told that they were going to go to a horror movie set and possibly make this really cool, tremendous horror movie. Poppy is told that it's like her long-lost, like, great aunt or whatever, something like that, and she wants family desperately, so she kind of just takes off to go to this too. But all these kids eventually, when they find their way to this place, realize it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's this big old castle-like thing. And when they get inside, weird stuff starts happening. They start finding out that there's, like, people in this place. There's kids here, like, about their age as well. And they're wearing these animal masks. They're wearing, like, monkey masks and, bunnies, all that kind of stuff. That's really it. And it creeps them out because these things will, like, come up to them and not say anything and then take off running. And over time, they kind of realize there's a little bit too much they have in common with these things. It's kind of eerie, honestly. There's a really odd, eerie atmosphere to the book. I don't love the book. I don't even know if I could go as far to say the book is a great book. It's as fine and okay as possible, right? Now, this is a series. This is like a 4-book series. So maybe it gets better. I've heard some people say that the books are fantastic, one of their favorite book series ever. I don't know how much I trust that, especially on the internet. You know how people are. But it could get better. I could see potential here to get really, really good. The kids are stuck inside of this castle, basically, and they can't get out, and there's different things happening. One of my favorite horror scenes I've ever read in my life that genuinely chilled me last night when I read it was the elevator scene. And I won't spoil that for anybody who wants to know about it. I'm not going to spoil it. If you want to read it, read the book yourself. It was genuinely creepy. I mean, that scene really got to me. Most of the book didn't. Now, I kind of liked the characters. That's my big thing. My big draw was the characters themselves for like the first 100 pages of the book before they even met. Out of a 215-page book. I mean, close to about 80 or 90 pages happen of the kids getting to where they're going to this castle, Larkspur, before they even actually meet each other. But then the events inside of the castle, I actually think are really underwhelming. I think they're not as well utilized as they could be, but like I said, there is this undertone of an eeriness in the atmosphere that I really like and I really appreciate about this. It works. It works really well for the most part, but the book itself is not very eventful. It's not super scary. I wouldn't even know if I'd say it's much scarier than the part I talked about. It has a really cool twist at the end that I liked a lot too. I thought it was very nice that that was in there. I'd be curious to see what the next books could do with that. I don't love the book. I think it's as fine as humanly possible. And I know that comes across like an insult, but I don't mean it to. It genuinely is just a decent book. Like, you ever read a book and you're like, oh, it's good. You know, it's really what this is like. It's not going to be life-changing. It's not going to be something that's very humoristic. Is that a word? Humorous is more what I meant. Like R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series. It's not going to be something super intense like the Fear Street books from R.L. Stine. I'm not trying to just compare it with those things. I'm just saying in general, the strengths in this book, the things that I think it's trying to project as a horror project for kids, for middle graders, it's probably going to scare a middle schooler type kid, or elementary schooler for that matter. It's probably going to creep you out if you're at that age. People like myself who have grown up on all of the most horrific horror films ever, it's not going to faze us. Not that I need it to, because this is not clearly meant for me. But the fact that R.L. Stine can get me a lot of the time with Fear Street and with Goosebumps and all that tells me that this book should have had more to offer. And it's not really Dan's fault. Dan writes a lot of middle grade horror. There's stuff like The Nightmares. I haven't read that, but I've seen it on like Amazon, and the cover's creepy. This dude's been writing horror for a long time for like middle school grade type people. And I would like to see what he could do with just a straight up basic novel by himself, because I really feel like one of the biggest problems with this book is once we get to the castle, we run out of steam. We don't really know what to do with them at that point. I don't know. I think it could easily get better, but it could easily get worse too, if that makes sense. I'm not super invested in this. Honestly, if people really want a sequel review, like the reviews for the sequels, then I'll check them out, maybe, God willing. I don't know. I have a lot of other stuff I'd rather read, frankly. But this wasn't bad. I don't really have a desire to keep chasing after this. Like, I have to be really, really into something to go and pick out every single thing around it, like I am with Goosebumps, right? But I don't know. I'm not super excited and impressed about that. I thought the app could be a lot cooler than it ended up being, but it's not. It's kind of dumb. Honestly, I don't recommend using the app. And again, I only used it for half the book, so I don't know how much more of that could have really played in and increased the story to be better. I don't think it did by much, honestly. You can sit down and read this, unlike Skeleton Creek, without all of that. You can just straight up enjoy the book as it is, which is good. And I find that as a positive, because a lot of the time when movies try to market and books try to market based on apps and technology, it doesn't work out well. It doesn't. Let's just be honest. It doesn't do that well. This does okay. It does okay. The app can be kind of a bonus depending on how much you're into this book. But for me, I don't know. It's cool. Again, I really like one of the best things about this book is the interior of the book. How it has like this stain on it. It's like a grayish black stain on every single page. I like that. The art that's done in the book for different pictures and stuff, like the boy in the bunny mask on the stairs, really creepy stuff. The dolls, and especially in the elevator scene, they're creepy. I'm not gonna lie, they're creepy. They add a really good atmosphere to what this book is kind of lacking on, honestly. I really hope Dan keeps getting better. I really think the guy has some talent. He really can pull this off. His characters are good here. They're the one thing that I really reach out and read the other books for. But otherwise, I'm not super impressed with this. It's okay. You know, a lot of the reviews on like Goodreads and stuff are really, really popular for this. So maybe this is just a matter of not being the right audience. Maybe I've been too overexposed into horror to really be able to be affected by this all that much, or to really enjoy it all that much. I'm not really sure. I didn't think it was all that great. It was good. It was just fine. What do you guys think? Put your thoughts down below on Shadow House book number 1, The Gathering, and about the whole series in general. Don't spoil anything for me. Just kind of let me know what you think about it all down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. Do you think Dan in general is a better writer than people give him credit for? Because like I said, he's done a lot of stuff, a lot of horror stuff, and I'd love to hear what people say about all that too. But anyway, if I had to rate Shadow House The Gathering on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give this a low 3 out of 5. You know, it's okay. It's decent. It's not anything to be mean about. I don't think it's great. And I think Dan could do great. I really do think he could. But even so, what are your thoughts, guys? Put them down below. Thank you for watching, and may the Lord Jesus Christ bless you guys today, and goodbye.